Okay, today I want to talk about dealing with no's because you're going to get them. No matter how long you've been doing this, eventually or a lot, you're going to hit no's. And it's either going to be one no after another, or you'll be going along with yes, 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 and then hit a no. So in the beginning, when you're very first developing as a medium, it happens more because you're learning how to interpret the information that you're getting. But I have to say that a no does not mean that you're flat out wrong. It could mean that you've slightly misinterpreted, or the way you've said something was slightly misunderstood by someone. So the very first public reading I ever did was with a friend of mine who's a very experienced medium. She took me, her neighbors who were good friends of hers were doing a Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead party. And just for fun, she was going to be a medium. They knew she was a medium. And she said, I'm bringing this guy, Lawrence. He's learning. And if anyone's willing to let him practice on you, he'd love to do it. So very first guy that ever sat in front of me, right away, I had a man. I was getting him on father's side of the family. I was seeing everyone I've ever known named Richard. And I was getting a lot of Catholic references. And he just kept saying no, 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 no to everything that I said. And it was frustrating because it wouldn't go away. So I had no experience at that time dropping one connection and picking up another. So I tried to switch, it didn't go well. And then our time ran out. It was the next person's turn because we were timing these readings. So as he was getting up to leave, I said, well, thank you for your patience. I really appreciate your time. And I'm still getting, Richard and Catholic references. So I'm surprised you couldn't take that for anyone on your father or father-in-law's side of the family. And his shoulders slumped and he said, you said dad. And I've been thinking of my dad. My ex-father-in-law was named Richard and he was Catholic. So I was like, oh, thank you for saying that. So it was good. The other thing I want to say about no's is if you, first of all, look at them all as learning opportunities, because they are. That instance was my fault. I said father's side of the family. So what I learned out of that was to say father or father-in-law's side of the family. And what I've now started to say is the masculine side of the family, because it turns out that for me, when I get people on my right-hand side, and this is just a quirk in my own mediumship, it's the masculine side. So father, father-in-law, or even husband's side, and left is mom or wife's side or mother-in-law's side, or known through those people, not necessarily related to them. So that was a learning opportunity. If you are, no matter how far you are developed or not in this, if you keep getting something and the person in front of you keeps saying no, come back to it, move on to the next bit. You have to treat no's, you just have to drop them and move on. But if you keep getting something, especially if you keep getting the same thing different ways, come back to it. In the case that I just told you about with Richard and the Catholic guy, I kept getting different Catholic images. And I saw everyone I personally knew named Richard, and then I started seeing famous people like Richard Gere, the actor Richard Gere. I knew there was a Richard connected to this guy. So if you keep getting the same thing, just come back to it, even if they can't take it. And then, so early on in my development, another no example was I was put in, it was a beginner's circle. I was put in a one-on-one breakout room with some woman who gave me a great reading, and then it was my turn. And I got this man, he was showing me the university that I currently work for. So I knew he was an employee, maybe a professor, but I knew he worked for a university. I could feel myself driving a stick. I could feel my chest hitting a steering wheel. I knew his passing was sudden and abrupt. And he kept showing me lap swimming, myself lap swimming at the university I work for, and other people lap swimming. And she could not take any of it. She's like, I'm sorry, I can't place anything. So, and then our time ran out and we were back with the rest of the group. So the next day she found me on Facebook and she said, I had to find you because I was telling my grandparents about the reading. And my grandfather told me about a man I've never heard of. He had a brother-in-law in his 20s who was a college professor, who was a competitive swimmer, who not only was killed in a car accident, but the steering wheel went through his chest. That's how he died. So everything you said was right, but I had never heard of this guy, so I didn't know. So those are the best kind of no's. When someone verifies something they didn't know, but someone else they talked to about it does. So for me, when that happened a few times, no's became less and less important to me, but it's a fine line to walk, because I've seen people go both extremes where they'll just say, no, I'm right. It's what I'm getting. You're misunderstanding. It's your fault, client. And so that's kind of obnoxious. And then the other extreme is, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm getting no's. So all the rest of it is wrong too. You can't be extreme about no's in either direction. And it is hard to walk that line of, because I do still think to myself, I wonder if you're just forgetting or not realizing. John Edward calls it psychic amnesia. I've done this to people so many times that when I get no's, when I clearly keep getting the same thing, I just assume it's a case of psychic amnesia, meaning someone has read for me, they keep telling me something, I keep saying no, no, no. And then after the reading's over, I realize, oh, yes, obviously, yes. How did I say no to that? So that happens. That's definitely going to happen. That will be a reason that you get no's. Especially the longer you've been doing this. And then if you're new to mediumship and you're in some kind of new mediums circle or development circle, there will be other people in there who are also inexperienced and who have inexperienced expectations, unrealistic expectations, like they've seen mediums on television where all the no's are edited out. And so it's good to find a circle where the person running it says, if you can take about 85%, not 100% yes, but about 85%, say something, stick up your hand and say something. Because sometimes people have unreasonable expectations. Even other mediums, even other learning mediums can have unreasonable expectations. So that's why you'll get no's. And then there's a couple of people I'm not going to name, but I've ended up, I'll do a class with, Lynn Probert or Tony Stockwell or Charlie Kelly will have like a 2-hour class or something, and I'll do one of those. And they're fun. And I've come across 2 people in these classes that well-known mediums give, where they're just too quick to say no, 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 no. They're too fast to say no. And I've realized those 2 people I'm thinking of want to teach as much as they want to participate as a student. And when I've pinned them down in the feedback afterward, it turns out that some of those no's were actually yes. I'm like, so you do understand this? And they've said, oh, well, technically, yes, I guess. I'm like, it's yes. So some people are just bad sitters. Even other mediums can be bad sitters. Real world clients can certainly be bad sitters. I read for a man once, his wife, I had read for his wife. She said, I want you to read for my husband. And she said, I have to be on the Zoom call because he's just going to forget stuff. And right off the bat, I had his grandmother. I knew there was a Charlotte. I didn't know if that was her name or someone close. And he was saying, no, I can't place that at all. And the wife unmuted herself and she said, our daughter's name is Charlotte. And she was very close to this grandmother. So that's a definite yes. That's why I'm on this call. So people just forget. Some people are just bad sitters. So there's that. So you can't let no's throw you. You can be 100% right in a reading. That happens, but it doesn't always happen. And you are always there's always room for misinterpretation of however you get information. So the analogy that I make for people is my mom she had cancer, she had chemotherapy and radiation, and she died anyway. But that does not invalidate chemotherapy and radiation as valid treatments. Sometimes nothing is 100%. Almost nothing is 100% always works or is always yes or is always right, especially when you're dealing with any kind of translating or interpreting from one language to another or translating the impressions you're getting from spirit into spoken English or whatever you speak. So always room for misinterpretation. Next week, I am going to talk about reincarnation because I grew up believing in reincarnation. I've examined those beliefs and I still believe in reincarnation. So how does that go hand in hand? What happens with that subject and mediumship? So I'm going to talk about that. And until then, please leave your questions or comments below and I will try to answer them. Thank you.